You did a good job. Yeah, you did. That's. That's not cool.
With Stranger Things becoming one of Netflix's most watched shows, it wouldn't surprise us if the executives had a few rules for the cast to follow. The Duffer Brothers have expressed that they'd want the show to go as far as it can, which means that the cast would have to stick around for a while. From some pretty obvious rules, such as mindful social media posts and keeping the plot secret, to a few more peculiar ones, such as no phones on set, no makeup, and being prepared to film on actual burial grounds. We're looking at some of the strict rules the Duffer Brothers have outlined for the cast of Stranger Things. But before we get into it, make sure you hit that subscribe button for some cool and never seen before content you wouldn't want to miss out. In one of the show's more iconic scenes, Eleven can be seen sneaking into a diner and looking for something to eat. While we can't really expect the producers to make it seem cold without it actually being that way, Millie Bobby Brown was caught off guard with her meal. The actress went on an interview to state that the entire scene was disgusting, and that she had a cup placed next to her to where she'd spit out the cold burger after the producers yelled cut. Brown stated that she had to stuff her face with cold fries and 3 greasy burgers until the scene was over with. In all fairness, with Brown's phenomenal performance, we couldn't tell she had been gagging through that entire scene. According to Sadie Sink and Caleb Malagan, the actors had no idea they were supposed to share an on-screen kiss until Robert Duffer directed them to do so mid-scene. The two characters, Max and Lucas, shared a brief relationship in season 3. According to Robert Duffer, he had originally snuck the kiss scene as a joke, but seeing Sink react to it so strongly, he decided it was best to fit it into the scene. While the cast is largely American, Brown and Charlie Heaton are British, and the two of them have a pretty noticeable accent while giving interviews. However, you probably wouldn't be able to tell from watching them on the show. That's probably because the producers have a strict rule about accents. That is, there shouldn't be one. While Brown's character is shown to have learned to articulate over the show, Heaton's character, Jonathan Byers, has a lot more words to say, and he has to say them in an American accent. According to the producers, the rule had to be enforced to keep the show from losing its edge. You can't have people speaking in different accents while they're all shown to have grown up in the same town. Heaton's managed to power through, but can you guess which word gave him a hard time? It was actually Nancy. Ironic, but it's true. The British actor had to train himself to say Nancy in his usual accent. Critics have praised the show for being the first of its kind and probably the best show of all time. However, when the Duffer Brothers were holding auditions, they had the leading young boys read lines from Stephen King's Stand By Me. The novel had a similar premise to the show, a group of young boys on an adventure of a lifetime. The showrunners wanted to make sure they had the best fit for the role, and it's pretty obvious that they do. What does it feel like to become a Hollywood A-lister before you hit 18? You'd have to ask the ensemble cast of Stranger Things for that one. With the show entering into its 4th season, we've pretty much watched these kids grow up. For context, Millie Bobby Brown was only 12 when season 1 came out in 2016. Yikes, it's been a minute. After season 1 became a smashing hit, the young cast members were asked how they were reacting to their newfound fame. According to them, they'd been told that they might have to prepare for bombardment after the first season wrapped up. According to Noah Schnapp, the actor had several interviews and appearances lined up after he came back from camp. Producers are always wary of mobile phones on set, since anything can get leaked. The cast members take a selfie, and someone would hack into their cloud and reveal images of the D&D-based supervillain for the next season. However, the Duffer Brothers have another reason why they're so particular about not letting anyone have a phone in their pocket. The cast is told to embody their characters while on set. That is, live like you would in the 80s, and we all know no one had access to mobile phone technology back then. In hindsight, it's probably hard for the young cast to be away from their phones for that long, but given their excruciating work schedule, they probably don't miss their phones that much anyway. Most producers wouldn't think twice about their cast coming to set with a full face of makeup. It might take a minute or two longer to get them scrubbed down and then dottled up for the role, but nothing Hollywood professionals can't handle. However, the showrunners for Stranger Things are a bit more particular than any others. Given the timeline of the show, the actors have to be dottled up by professionals to make it seem like they're really living in the 80s. According to Brown, the rule had to be enforced because of her. Apparently, Brown came to set one day covered in glitter, and the makeup artist had to spend 45 minutes getting the glitter off of her face. This delayed shooting, and the Duffer Brothers didn't want it to happen again. When your character is set in the 80s, you'd pretty much be expected to have blowouts that match the era. The cast of Stranger Things is known for their strict adherence to the theme, but the Duffer Brothers had to enforce one particular rule to keep one of the show's iconic trademarks intact. Any guesses? The hair. Or you might know him as Joe Carey, who plays Steve Harrington. According to Carey, he auditioned for the role with the same gravity-defying, luscious locks that have since become synonymous with his character. The brothers want to keep Steve Harrington, one of the show's favorites, in mint condition. Carey's next haircut is probably when the show's over. While the cast on Baywatch would probably have been encouraged to get as fit as they could for their role, the cast of Stranger Things are told to do anything but. The 80s aren't really remembered for their muscular-looking men and women. They were a bit more lanky, to put it. While the other characters didn't have too hard of a time sticking to this one, Darcy Montgomery had to change his diet completely to fit his role as Billy Hargrove. According to Montgomery, he had just finished filming Power Rangers, for which he had to work out extensively. Now, the actor was asked to lose the physique and pack on a few pounds to fit his new role as Billy. Here's a rule we wish existed all throughout Hollywood. The cast of Stranger Things are constantly reminded to take up their grievances with one another on set and nowhere besides that. When you're made to spend hours on end with one another on set, you're bound to get sick of each other at some point, especially when you're hardly 13. However, the Duffer Brothers intercepted the issue before it became a bigger one. The entire cast had been told that the only place they're allowed to badmouth one another is on set. There too, the producers would intervene and handle their problems with one another to get them back on track before the next scene started. After all, when you spend close to 6 years with a cast, you're bound to become family. Screeners, such as critics, voters, and award-giving bodies, are given early access to episodes. Several Netflix shows premiere their episodes for screeners ahead of the show's scheduled release, sometimes months ahead. To keep the storyline from leaking anywhere else, the producers of Stranger Things keep their episodes password protected. This is done to keep the episodes from leaking online, and to trace the leak back to the original source as promptly as they can. When you're a part of the ensemble cast for a hit television series such as Stranger Things, you're bound to have a few rules to stick to. And when you're in the era of social media, one of those rules has to do with what you post and how much of it. The young cast of Stranger Things have been strictly told to avoid posting excessively about the show online. Why? Because fans sometimes go through extreme lengths to decode or uncover secrets about the show. They could spot props in the backgrounds, work out a timeline, and some other top CSI stuff, all from piecing together social media posts. We all know what method acting is. An actor totally embodies the role they're supposed to play. This means they'd have to live and breathe in character at all times. While the Duffer Brothers aren't asking the cast of Stranger Things to pretend like there's an upside down under their home, they do ask the actors to wear as much fashion from the 80s as they can. This is to keep them prepped for the role at all times, and given how fashionable the 80s were, we can't think of a reason the cast would have a problem with this one. Those are some pretty strict rules. Do you think they're fair? Let us know in the comments down below, and if you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. We'll see you next time on the channel.